Welcome to English Spoken Perfectly, a channel where we will read good books together and I will explain so that you become a better English speaker and enrich your vocabulary. As I read the book, you can follow along on the screen. As I read, I will highlight certain words or phrases. When I have finished the reading, I will come back and review each of those words and phrases. The word and phrase review will improve both your reading comprehension as well as give you new words to add to your vocabulary. In order for you to track your progress in reading comprehension and new vocabulary, I have set a test. The link to the test appears below this video on YouTube. Access to the test is free, but if you wish to receive a score for the test, you will need to be a member of my Patreon group. Details for my Patreon group are found both inside the video as well as underneath the video on YouTube. The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway, Book 1, Chapter 5, Lesson 4. In the morning, I walked down the boulevard to the Rue Soufflot for coffee and brioche. It was a fine morning. The horse chestnut trees in the Luxembourg gardens were in bloom. There was the pleasant early morning feeling of a hot day. I read the papers with the coffee and then smoked a cigarette. The flower women were coming up from the market and arranging their daily stock. Students were going up to the law school or down to the Sorbonne. The boulevard was busy with trams and people going to work. I got on an S bus and rode down to the Madeleine, standing on the back platform. From the Madeleine, I walked along the Boulevard des Capucines to the Opera and up to my office. I passed the man with the jumping frogs and the man with the boxer toys. I stepped aside to avoid walking into the thread with which his girl assistant manipulated the boxes. She was standing looking away, the thread in her folded hands. The man was urging 2 tourists to buy. 3 more tourists had stopped and were watching. I walked on behind a man who was pushing a roller that printed the name Cinzano on the sidewalk in damp letters. All along, people were going to work. It felt pleasant to be going to work. I walked across the avenue and turned into my office. Upstairs in the office, I read the French morning papers, smoked, and then sat at the typewriter and got off a good morning's work. At 11 o'clock, I went over to the Quai d'Orsay in a taxi and went in and sat with about a dozen correspondents, while the Foreign Office mouthpiece, a young Nouvelle Revue Française diplomat in horn-rimmed spectacles, talked and answered questions for half an hour. The president of the council was in Lyon, making a speech, or rather he was on his way back. Several people asked questions to hear themselves talk, and there were a couple of questions asked by news servicemen who wanted to know the answers. There was no news. I shared a taxi back from the Quai d'Orsay with Woolsey and Crumb. "What do you do nights, Jake?" asked Crumb. "I never see you around." "Oh, I'm over in the quarter." "I'm coming over some night. The Dingo. That's the great place, isn't it?" "Yes, that or this new dive, the Select." "I've meant to get over," said Crumb. "You know how it is, though, with a wife and kids." "Playing any tennis?" Woolsey asked. "Well, no," said Crumb. "I can't say I've played any this year. I've tried to get away, but Sundays it's always rained, and the courts are so damned crowded." "The Englishmen all have Saturday off," Woolsey said. "Lucky beggars," said Crumb. "Well, I'll tell you, some day I'm not going to be working for an agency. Then I'll have plenty of time to get out in the country." "That's the thing to do. Live out in the country and have a little car. I've been thinking some about getting a car next year." I banged on the glass. The chauffeur stopped. "Here's my street," I said. "Come in and have a drink." "Thanks, old man," Crumb said. Woolsey shook his head. "I've got to file that line he got off this morning. I put a 2 franc piece in Crumb's hand. "You're crazy, Jake," he said. "This is on me." "It's all on the office, anyway." "Nope, I want to get it." I waved goodbye. Crumb put his head out. "See you at the lunch on Wednesday." "You bet!" I went to the office in the elevator. Robert Cohn was waiting for me. "Hello, Jake," he said. "Going out to lunch?" "Yes, let me see if there's anything new." "Where will we eat?" "Anywhere." I was looking over my desk. "Where do you want to eat?" "How about Wetzel's? They've got good hors d'oeuvres." In the restaurant, we ordered hors d'oeuvres and beer. The sommelier brought the beer, tall, beaded on the outside of the steins, and cold. There were a dozen different dishes of hors d'oeuvres. "Have any fun last night?" I asked. "No, I don't think so." "How's the writing going?" "Rotten. I can't get the second book going." "That happens to everybody." "Oh, I'm sure of that. It gets me worried, though." "Thought any more about going to South America?" "I mean that." "Well, why don't you start off?" "Francis." "Well," I said, "take her with you." "She wouldn't like it. That isn't the sort of thing she likes. She likes a lot of people around." "Tell her to go to hell." "I can't. I've got certain obligations to her." He shoved the sliced cucumbers away and took a pickled herring. "What do you know about Lady Brett Ashley, Jake?" "Her name's Lady Ashley. Brett's her own name." "She's a nice girl," I said. "She's getting a divorce, and now she's going to marry Mike Campbell. He's over in Scotland now." "Why?" "She's a remarkably attractive woman." "Isn't she?" "There's a certain quality about her, a certain fineness. She seems to be absolutely fine and straight." "She's very nice." "I don't know how to describe the quality," Cohn said. "I suppose it's breeding?" "You sound as though you liked her pretty well." "I do. I shouldn't wonder if I were in love with her." "She's a drunk," I said. "She's in love with Mike Campbell, and she's going to marry him. He's going to be rich as hell someday." "I don't believe she'll ever marry him." "Why not?" "I don't know. I just don't believe it." "Have you known her a long time?" "Yes," I said. "She was a VAD in a hospital I was in during the war." "She must have been just a kid then." "She's 34 now." "When did she marry Ashley?" "During the war. Her own true love had just kicked off with the dysentery." "You talk sort of bitter." "Sorry, I didn't mean to. I was just trying to give you the facts." "I don't believe she would marry anybody she didn't love." "Well," I said, "she's done it twice." "I don't believe it." "Well," I said, "don't ask me a lot of fool questions if you don't like the answers." "I didn't ask you that." "You asked me what I knew about Brett Ashley." "I didn't ask you to insult her." "Oh, go to hell." He stood up from the table, his face white, and stood there, white and angry, behind the little plates of hors d'oeuvres. "Sit down," I said. "Don't be a fool." "You've got to take that back." "Oh, cut out the prep school stuff." "Take it back." "Sure, anything. I never heard of Brett Ashley. How's that?" "No, not that. About me going to hell." "Oh, don't go to hell," I said. "Stick around. We're just starting lunch." Cohn smiled again and sat down. He seemed glad to sit down. What the hell would he have done if he hadn't sat down? "You say such damned insulting things, Jake." "I'm sorry. I've got a nasty tongue." "I never mean it when I say nasty things." "I know it," Cohn said. "You're really about the best friend I have, Jake." God help you, I thought. "Forget what I said," I said out loud. "I'm sorry." "It's all right. It's fine. I was just sore for a minute." "Good. Let's get something else to eat." After we finished the lunch, we walked up to the Café de la Paix and had coffee. I could feel Cone wanted to bring up Brett again, but I held him off it. We talked about one thing and another, and I left him to come to the office. Arranging. Arranging can be used in English to describe the organizing or setting out of both physical things as well as intangible or non-physical things. For example, you can arrange a party. This means that you are setting up, you are telling people about it, what the arrangements of the party are, what time, where to be. So that is arranging a party. But in this use of the word arranging, it is describing the physical laying out of products. You can arrange flowers in a bowl. It means that you physically move them into a position that you wish them to be in. Manipulated. Manipulated means that she physically made the boxes move. She was moving the boxes by using the thread. And manipulated has other meanings in English as well, but in this case, again, it is relating to physical movement. Manipulated can also mean in English that you make somebody do something that they might not consciously want to do, but you get them to do it. You make them do it by using some kind of strategy, some kind of devious or underhand strategy. Journalists are often called correspondents. This person is a correspondent for a television channel. Often they are the journalists who do international work. Mouthpiece. This means that the person, even though I didn't highlight this in the first reading, the mouthpiece, it means that he always gave the official point of view. He told people what the Foreign Office wanted them to hear. When we use this expression, to hear themselves talk, it is a derogatory or insulting expression. It means that these people had nothing useful, nothing constructive to ask, but they wanted to appear as though they were intelligent, as though they had some value in the conversation. And so, as he says, they asked questions to hear themselves talk. I'm coming over. Coming over means you're going to visit somebody either at their house or maybe a restaurant or a bar. Even if they were in a park, you could say, I'm coming over. It means I'm coming to be with you. I'm coming to join you. A dive is an expression used to talk about a low class or not very sophisticated bar or restaurant. So when people say that it's a dive, it means that it's not very desirable to go there. It's not high class. It's not a quality place. Crowded. Crowded means that there were a lot of people that came there. That line he got off this morning, this refers to a newspaper article. So filing that line, it means that he posted or he sent or he handed in his article, his line, his article. If something is on me, it means I am paying. If we say it is on you, it means in a financial sense that you are paying. So typically this comes up when somebody offers to pay and someone else replies and says, no, this is on me. It means I am going to pay. And then he replies and he says, it's on the office. It means that the office is going to pay. So you might say, I will pay for lunch, and the other person says, no, it's on my company. It's on my office. It's on the office. These mean that you are not paying, but the other party is paying. You bet. You bet is an expression which indicates strong confirmation. See you at lunch? You bet. See you at lunch? Definitely. See you at lunch? I'll be there. So it is strong confirmation or affirmation. Hors d'oeuvres. Hors d'oeuvres comes up quite a bit in this book. It's a French word, and I'm going to explain it because it does come up so many times. An hors d'oeuvre is the starter course, the little small, often cheese, crackers, these small things that people snack on before the main course. In this particular case, use of the word going means that he can't get it started. He can't start the book. Something is making him have a problem starting it. You could say, I can't get the car going. My bicycle isn't going at the moment. It means it's not riding, it's not starting, it's not moving. An obligation. An obligation means that you have a commitment. It means that you have to fulfill some type of agreement which may be stated or not stated. You may feel that you have to do something for somebody, and you may never tell them, but you may feel that you have this obligation to them. You have this debt. You have this requirement to fulfill some kind of a task. You may have a contractual requirement to do something. So an obligation is a requirement to do something. I suppose it's breeding. People who have breeding are supposed to be well behaved, polite, well brought up. She was a VAD in a hospital. This means that she was a nurse. This word VAD in this context talks about a nurse in a World War I hospital. Kicked off means that he died. In modern English, we usually use kicked off to describe something having started. You started a new job. I've just kicked off a new job. But in this case, in this meaning of the book, talking about Brett's first husband, it means that he died. In English, we say for dying, there's another expression, kicked the bucket. And this is a variation of that expression. He kicked off, he died. If you take something back, it means that you apologize for saying it. You say that you no longer wish to say it. You say you don't mean it. You take something back. Prep school stuff. He's referring to childish behavior that would be more appropriate in a primary school, in a school for little children. When somebody talks about a nasty tongue, it means they say unkind or insulting or offensive things. If you want to bring something up, it means that you want to talk about it. So we could paraphrase and say, I could feel Cohn wanted to talk about Brett. Cohn wanted to discuss Brett again. That brings us to the end of today's book reading and the lesson with it. Please like and subscribe in order to get notifications about future episodes and other postings on this channel. Also, don't forget to do the test in order to track your progress in reading comprehension improvement and vocabulary expansion. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to you joining me in the future.